A wise man once said, the deep, dark, dark, deep down. That's exactly how it's referred to in all literature, on all academic literature. All right. The Unspeakable Horrors of the Deep Sea featuring Lindsay Nicole and Casual Geographic. Let's see. What's he gonna say?
You've probably heard me say that I'd rather eat 10 pounds of Popeye's biscuits with no drink than ever go out into the ocean. Well, I'd rather ride cross-country on a bike with a hot grill for a seat than spend half a second in the deep sea. There's a lot of living nightmares and paralysis demons come to life if you sink deep enough. And the Megalodon is not one of them. You'll often hear this thing about how the prehistoric apex predator never got discontinued, it's just chilling a step above hell in the abyss. This is cap. For actually three good reasons. One, there just isn't enough food to sustain a 60-foot you to the
Finally!
Two, if
Finally,
nature did
someone
keep the
says
same
this!
jumbo jaws that peaked in the Pliocene, we at least would have seen a body by now. And number three, why do y'all want this to be alive so bad? I promise you there's way worse things down there.
Okay, I have to pause because as an ex-marine biologist, nothing will lead me to a crash out quicker than somebody saying the Megalodon is like 1,000 feet under the ocean. Like they're just like, oh, the Megalodon is still alive. It's still alive. I swear, my mom's a Megalodon. Because the Megalodon is so big, it would never, ever, ever be sustained in a deep sea environment. Also, Megalodons were in the tropics. So literally they could not survive in the deep sea. It is my number one fucking, okay, it's like my number one pet peeve. Like the Meg movie, it pisses me off so much. I swear to God. Every time someone like quotes that movie as like factual evidence that the ocean floor is fake and the Megalodon is underneath the fake ocean floor, oh my God, it sends me straight into crash out. There's not, okay, I don't get annoyed very easily. I can hold myself like I can hold my emotions back pretty well. But okay, no you can't. Okay. Sometimes I can. Most of the time I can. But people's theories about Megalodon immediately send me into crash out mode. No, you guys don't even understand how many times, like, because I was a marine biologist for a couple of years, right? I did that. I studied it. I worked in the, I worked adjacent to the field for a bit. You will not believe how many times people came up to me and tried to tell me that the Megalodon was still alive and it was in the deep, dark ocean and the ocean floor is fake. And every single time they fucking used the Meg movie as evidence. It like literally happened at least 10 times, like double-digit times. And now that movie is like my mortal enemy. I hope you hook up for a convo with my mom so you can see they are real. No, like Megalodons existed for sure. And they're very cool. I need people to get a grasp that Megalodons do not exist anymore. They died. Let them be dead. Bro, it's okay. We have real sharks now. It's fine. You don't need Megalodons anymore. I have so much respect for this guy. I will believe anything he fucking tells me at this point. He's like cemented like my good opinion of him by talking about Megalodons.
Like, I would evacuate my bowels if I ever saw a giga great white shark. But put me in front of a T-posing squid and I'm shitting more bricks than the entire city of Newark. The bigfin squid is easily one of the most disturbing things alive as I'm saying this. It's a T-posing predator with arms estimated to max out at just under 30 feet.
Yes,
Scientists
these are very
believe the bigfin
creepy.
catches bodies by dragging those arms, which can be easily 20 times its own body length, along the ocean floor like trawling nets and feeding on whatever poor soul accidentally bumps into them.
This
You're
is
gonna hear me
another
say believe or we think a lot, and that's
common
'cause
evolution for
we
deep sea
don't know a
creatures.
whole lot about them. Almost every sighting and virtually every specimen studied were either juveniles or paralarvae, We have no way of knowing exactly what their final form could look like. For all we know, this could be Junior.
Why is
we
it
just
ripped?
haven't seen Mama Bigfin yet. Who would have thought that just putting elbows on a squid would instantly turn it into the spawn of Satan? Oh, and if you thought the bigfin was just this slow, passive floating predator, then you're seriously underestimating the ocean's ability to massacre your mental health. And if you're curious, this video was taken about 7,000 feet down in the Gulf of Mexico. But considering they're believed to be the deepest living squids at about 20,000 feet, I have a theory. This is a juvenile, and the big boys are the ones shacking it up down in the crotch of the ocean.
Oh,
but good
no.
news, the bigfin probably only feeds on small fish and crustaceans. Bad news, there are squids big enough to beef with the biggest predators on the planet. And the biggest predator on the planet that isn't a disgraced former YouTuber is the sperm whale, which on its own would have to be one of the most traumatizing things to witness during their 2-hour hunting expeditions down in the deep sea. Well, the tankiest carnivore on Earth regularly runs fades with the giant squid. And by
is saying that the megalodon is still alive and living below the ocean floor, is it more absurd than saying the Earth is flat? You know what? Yes. In my opinion, saying that the megalodon is still alive and living below the ocean floor makes you worse than a flat earther. I respect a flat earther more than I respect people that believe megalodons are under the ocean floor. Absolutely no respect for that.
giant. We're talking about calamari growing to an estimated 40 feet long. Not only are they themselves predators that hunt using 20-foot
these
tentacles,
are the squids
they're
that inspired the
opportunistic cannibals that would 100% murk their entire family reunion for some calories. Now, nature high-key screwed up their character design. They have a donut-shaped brain and an esophagus running through it, meaning if they swallow something big enough, not only do they run the risk of choking to a flatline, they can also factory reset their entire personality through severe brain damage, which is why they mitigate this by shredding their victims with a razor-sharp beak and what is essentially a tongue with teeth, the radula. That beak is such a weapon that you'll rarely see a sperm whale that hasn't been tattooed during a struggle with a giant squid. And while the plus-size cephalopod usually loses in a war with the whale,
sperm whales have crazy battle scars.
They do not make it easy.
Yeah,
but the most disturbing thing about
hold on, I'm going back.
Loses in a war with the whale, they do not.
Yeah, obviously this is a drawing, but imagine seeing this happening and you're on some ship in the 1700s and you're just chilling and all of a sudden you see this like battle between the gods. Like this is basically a battle between two gods if you're from like the 1600s and you're on a wooden boat. Like that would be horrifying. That would be so scary to see now. No wonder we have so many tales about krakens eating ships, and yeah, this would be a pretty fun wrestling match to watch. If I saw that happening 1700 or today, I'm getting away from there by any means possible, but preferably by air. I don't know if air is preferable anymore. Did you guys see that like Delta flight crash like yesterday? Yeah, I would bet on the squid. I don't know. What would you guys bet on? 100 quid on the whale, 50 quid on the squid. Okay, I'll raise you to 150 on the whale. 150 quid on the whale.
Not make it easy. But the most disturbing thing about them is that eye. Giant squids have the most physically imposing eye in nature, with it being roughly the size of a
200
soccer
quid on the
ball.
squid,
Contrary
200 on the whale.
Huge eyes don't exactly help it see further, but it does mean they're terrifyingly good at noticing objects giving off their own light, which is a lifesaver since when their biggest optosperm whale is on the hunt, modern-day Leviathan disturbs glowing creatures like jellyfish and crustaceans who flash in response. Having eyes as big as their heads means the giant squid can detect and use those flashes to avoid becoming a corpse. But that also means that if you ever go swimming in the Giga Squid's area code, the flashes you'd create mean that while you might not see it, the same animal that does its own kind dirty would know exactly where you are. And honestly, there's only one thing that could be worse than getting stalked by a school bus-sized headfoot. There's another squid with hunting tactics so spiritually upsetting, I'm not even gonna talk about it. I'm gonna go ahead and use a lifeline.
Wait,
the Humboldt squid, also known as the red devil. I'm Lindsay, by the way.
Hi, Lindsay!
Squid are found in the eastern Pacific Ocean, typically between 600 to 2,300 feet below the surface of the
I'm not
ocean.
familiar with
and
this
their nickname
species.
comes from the way they use their pigment cells called chromatophores to communicate. You're probably familiar with chromatophores.
I love chromatophores! I love chromatophores so much! Chromatophores are so fucking cool! They're so cool. That's what lets squids, and octopus that change color. That's the mechanism that they use to change colors and patterns and all that fun stuff. Man, and right now, there's a lot of people working on using chromatophores to apply it to fabrics. So we can get like color changing fabrics. And that's so cool! That was something else I wanted to do too. That was another thing I was really interested in doing.
metaphors through videos of different cephalopods using them to change color, blending into their surroundings, and even dreaming. And Humboldt squid notably use them to turn bright red when they're aggravated, hence the nickname Red Devil. It's very on brand. They're also extremely predatory and have been known to act aggressively towards scuba divers on rare occasion, which becomes a bit more terrifying when I tell you that they can get to 8 feet long and 100 pounds. Now you might be thinking, Lindsay, that is not that big. What about the giant squid and the colossal squid that can both get to like 40 feet long? Well, I haven't told you the best part yet.
I would cry if I saw an 8-foot squid in front of me.
In groups of up to 10, up to 100, 1,000. Yes, in groups of over 1,000. 1,000 squid. That's about 990 too many if you ask me. While hunting in these groups, they use their chromatophores to communicate with each other, coordinating.
Oh wait, I've seen these. Okay, no, I have seen
them to take down larger prey, dragging them into the
I
depths
had no
until they go
idea
unconscious.
they had such big
Scientists have
groups.
identified some of these communication patterns, as you can see in this little chart, but still don't know exactly what any of them mean. But regardless, that sounds like one of the worst ways to be unalived in the ocean. Oh wait, this isn't a TikTok collaboration. That sounds like one of the worst ways to die in the ocean.
So as you can see, whether it's being confronted by a Humboldt block party or squaring up with a live action kraken, there are many aspects of the deep sea that end up with you putting your therapist up a tax bracket. And a lot of that's because of this
the
cute
flashing
little thing
squid
known
I've seen
as
a couple times
deep sea
too.
gigantism.
It's such a cool method
the
of
idea that the
communication.
cold temperature, the dissolved oxygen, and the lack of pressure from predators allow some animals to escalate to the biggest and most terrifying.
Okay, I was about to
versions of
say,
themselves.
there's no way this
Exhibit
is real.
A, the Japanese spider crab, which can measure 12 feet
Dude.
across from claw to claw and weigh as much as a human
I saw
toddler.
these at
Only thing
the
worse than a giant spider
Osaka
crab
Aquarium, and they were
is a
so
giant
big.
crab spider. This is an Antarctic sea spider, a dinner plate-sized demon spawn that hunts by sucking the life out of its prey.
I
through its
don't like
proboscis.
spider crabs
Now
at
technically,
all.
they're not actual spiders.
Ugh.
But also, I imagine most people watching technically don't give a especially since this
No.
one looks like it identifies as a face hugger.
I
Then
don't
there's a
care.
giant isopod, which is essentially
No,
an aquatic
giant
cockroach
isopods
big enough
are
to be cradled like a
cute.
baby. No clue why you would though. And if you're
Oh
looking for a
no,
truly
come on.
super
Giant isopods are cute. That's my unpopular opinion. They're really cute to me. I thought they were pretty chill guys. They're very cool, like dinosaur relics. They're very cool.
size animal crossing, the oarfish should be on your list. The giant oarfish can grow to well
Oarfish
over
are
30 feet long,
crazy
and there have
big,
even
too.
been claims of those in the neighborhood of 50 feet. Proof that
Yeah.
back in the day when we had stories about sea
I caught
monsters,
so many of
they
these in
weren't
Animal
lying. They just
Crossing.
didn't have all the names yet. Also, if
They
you
go
caught
like
that pun
off the
earlier,
screen in Animal
we're
Crossing
friends now.
too.
But with deep sea gigantism and the endless expansive ocean acting as a canvas for Shaitan to practice his art, if you dive deep enough, there be monsters. For example,
Yeah.
this isn't an animal. It's a group of animals joined together in something like a hive mind. So we're not talking about it. We're talking about them. And sophonophores like this come in many forms. Like the Portuguese man of war armed with venom to ensure that the excruciating
these are
experience of meeting one is
dangerous.
permanently etched into your brain. And there's a Priodubia, a giant sophonophore that can flex a total length of up to 160 feet. And even though it's a collective group of tiny animals, its length could humble a blue whale, making it technically the longest creature on the planet. Or at best, a modest second, since the bootlace ribbon worm has been reported to reach 180 feet in length. And it's toxic because the ocean, and of course it is, with nasty smelling mucus potent enough to life deprive the crabs it likes
didn't
to
know
eat.
about
Like
this.
I said,
I knew
whether
about
it's
the,
Lucifer's tapeworm or a flying spaghetti creature,
that
there
guy.
be monsters. And it
Yeah,
gets
flying
so much
spaghetti
worse
creature is
than the
pretty
giant
chill,
worm.
but really,
Because
like,
as
creepy
terrifying
looking.
as the deep sea is, it's also nasty. And there might not be anything more repulsive than the hagfish. This loogie linguini feeds
I
on the
hate
rotting
these
corpses and
things.
carcasses that sink down into its domain.
Yeah.
And since they don't have any actual teeth,
Watching
the
them
graveyard
feed
guppy
on, like,
feeds by
carcasses is
sliding into an opening and
crazy
eating the
work.
decomposing body
Yeah,
from
'cause they
the
wiggle
inside
around.
out. And you would think that something that eats like a casket wouldn't have to worry about getting put on a plate itself. Again, you're giving the ocean too much credit. As self-defense, the hagfish will sweat buckets of slime, a phlegm jacket that's thick enough to
they
clog
are
the gills
slimy.
of anything hungry enough to F around and unlucky enough to find out. To the point where this is the end game of a truck transporting hagfish on the highway, crashing. Now, you've definitely seen this picture before, but have you ever stopped and asked yourself what they were doing there in the first place? You remember how I said nothing that eats like a hagfish should ever have to
look
worry
how
about getting
slimy
eaten?
that's
Well,
disgusting.
simple. For these hagfish, their final destination were dinner plates in Asian countries such as South Korea, where they're considered
That's disgusting. I've never seen this before. That's slime. That's all of the slime from these freaking fish.
A delicacy. Now, I'm not one to judge other cultures, but we seem to have a habit of
Ooh, that
constantly trying
okay.
to eat
The onions
all
looks
things
really
nature
good.
went out of its way
This
to
probably
tell us
would
not
go
to.
hard. I
But one
agree.
thing you won't see as a main course is something ironically named after a fruit.
If you
the sea cucumber is like
hand
the
me
hagfish
any
in
kind
that
of
its
meat
meal
with
prep
like
consists of all
caramelized
the things we
onions,
normally
I'm
flush,
probably
burn,
gonna
or
think it's
bury.
really good.
All the
I
soul
like
evacuated
fucking love
bodies that
onions
sink down to the
so
ocean floor
much.
instantly get put on the cucumber's grocery list. It's a literal
sea
bottom
cucumbers are
feeder, and I
cool.
mean that since
They're
they'll
pretty
also
cute.
make a meal out of feces. But like with vultures, if
Yeah.
Thanos had beef with sea cucumbers, the world would become an infinitely more disgusting place. That's not the only way sea cucumbers contribute to society. They're also often used as a protective bunker for fish, and well, let's just say they break in through the back door.
I forgot
it's a
about
violation
this.
of the highest natural order. It gets worse when a pearlfish decides to have a playdate right next to its prostate. I don't even know if they have a prostate, but you get what I mean. And if that makes you uncomfortable, here's an ad to give you time to mentally prepare for what's next. This adorable
Yeah.
little guy is known as a basket star. It's a type of brittle star and an echinoderm,
Sea
which actually
cucumbers
makes
are
it a
very,
close cousin of the sea cucumber. If you ever learned
kind
about fractals
to
and
other
geometry,
fish
then that's why the repeating
sometimes.
pattern of branching arms might look familiar.
They're very generous.
It's also why the US is really wasting $20 billion a year looking into space, because the real ET is happening right here. Because of the unsightly way basket stars get from A to B, they've also earned the nickname sea snakes. I feel itchy all of a sudden.
Snake
However,
stars.
even though it looks like something Lucifer would use to pleasure himself, they eat mostly zooplankton and are pretty much harmless for the most part. And honestly, that pretty much describes 80% of the nonsense in the deep sea, only really harmful to your peace of mind. Like take the frilled shark. Having been around for 80
Oh,
something
I
million
love
years,
frilled
not only
sharks.
is the frilled shark a living fossil,
They're
it's
pretty
likely
ugly,
nature's
but
rough
they're
draft
cool.
beta version of sharks today. Also, don't let this video fool you. They can grow to a respectable 6 feet long.
Yeah.
Also, they can be pregnant for 3.5 years,
They
which
look like
honestly makes about as
Godzilla
much sense
to
as
me a little
everything else
bit.
down there. And in terms of your mental health, the frilled shark is pretty harmless until you look them in the mouth. The devil's
Yeah.
fleshlight has hundreds of needle-like teeth to ensure that anything that gets caught in there doesn't get a second chance to pursue happiness. And for a shark that's been around long enough to have attended
Especially
savage
because also, if you guys notice the shape of the teeth, they're all turned inwards. So it's kind of like one of those traps. Like if you put your arm into it, you can't get your arm out of it without like all the teeth sinking into your arm. So that's fun.
wedding. I don't know why, but every picture of them looks like they're struggling with their own existence. Like I said though, they're not a threat to
Yeah, it
humans.
looks like a
But
bee
like I also
stinger.
said,
Yeah,
therapy ain't
they
cheap,
have
so if you don't want to end up on a
tons
couch,
of
don't look a
sharp
frilled shark
bars.
in the mouth. But yeah, you'd be surprised at just how many types of sharks you'll find in the same neighborhood SpongeBob got stranded in that one time. You have 20-foot
That
sleeper
episode
sharks that are
was
somehow
really
able to
scary.
use stealth to just spawn and inhale sustenance like a water Kirby. Speaking of sleepers, in 2015, a Pacific sleeper was recorded in the Solomon's Island. Why is that important? Well, its home address was right under an active volcano, proving that if any
Ooh.
animal had plot armor, it'd be sharks. Then you have the ghost shark, which, okay, yep, you got me, isn't an actual shark. It's a close cousin known as a chimera. The ghost part, though, that's on brand. They kind of remind me of the dry bones fish from Mario. The ghost otter shark doesn't
yeah.
even have the teeth you'd expect it to have, but instead they have plates that they use to grind up food. But since nature's constantly overcompensating,
These guys are
chimeras
really
do
cute.
have
I like
venomous
these a lot.
spines that are harmful to more than just your mental well-being. But by far, the weirdest thing about
Like, his
them,
nose looks
chimeras
really
have a
cute.
tenaculum on their forehead.
I just wanna boop him
Tenaculum
on
is
the
a
nose.
reproductive organ, meaning this fish has a... Yeah, on his forehead. Venom and
Oh,
that aside, this fish fresh out of Tim Burton's Wet Dream is actually pretty cool looking. And I'm just gonna say it, I think they're cute, and I'm perfectly fine with
Aw,
standing
I
on
think
that
this
hill
one's
alone.
cute
However,
too.
I don't think you'll find a single soul on this next shark's hill.
Feast your eyes on the goblin shark.
okay,
Demon
come
dog
on.
looking
All right, I have to stop it here. Goblin sharks are cool. They're terrifying, but they're so cool. No. They have such a unique, like, evolutionary aspect. Okay, no, goblin sharks are so cool.
fish with a mouth that snaps like nobody's business. They're rarely seen, but are known to live in oceans all around the world.
They're
at
very
depths of up to
weird and
4,200
gross looking,
feet
but they're
below the
so
surface of
interesting.
the ocean, and are estimated
fascinating
to
to
get to 18
me.
feet long, which is really big for a deep sea shark. You might have
Yeah,
seen videos
that is.
online of their jaws just
Ow.
ejecting from their brain case in a process called slingshot feeding. It's kind of what they're known for. Their upper and lower jaws lunge forward away from the skull, engulfing their prey. I know it probably seems ridiculous and almost alien, but it's actually not uncommon. Most fishes have jaws that aren't entirely attached. One might argue that the goblin shark is the most extreme example of this look, until you see a video of the slingjaw wrasse, who use suction feeding to
Oh,
snatch up their prey.
yeah.
They look like they have a trombone stuck in their mouth. Goblin sharks have a particularly long snout, and it's not for nothing. They have sensory structures, pores all over it that help them locate
Oh,
their
yeah,
prey,
they
like
also
squid,
have some, like,
fish,
nasty
and
looking
crustaceans.
teeth.
And
We
I am
need to go see
personally
a dentist
grateful
as
I am
well.
not a squid, fish, or crustacean.
Yeah, goblin's the right word for the only shark in the world with a receding gum line. But you gotta admit, yeeting your own jaw to catch calories is pretty metal, and you're gonna find that a lot of the creatures rolling in it deep have evolved some of the most creative ways of bagging groceries. Probably the most popular is the fish that nearly turned Nemo into an orphan. The
There he
anglerfish
is,
has two
the
defining
anglerfish.
personality traits, and one
That's
of them
our-
is
that's
that
our favorite
fish
right now.
allure
That's the
hanging
internet's
right in front
favorite
of those
right now.
life-canceling jaws. That light actually comes from bioluminescent bacteria shacking up inside a modified fin. So when a
Yeah.
bite-sized light work swims up to the light thinking it just cops some easy protein, the angler ensures that some fish out there never sees its father again. The other thing anglerfish got clout for
No,
is their
Nemo.
mating habits. I'm not gonna get into it, just know that if your marriage looks anything like theirs,
Ugh.
you're gonna need both a divorce and a restraining order. And you know what? Intensive therapy on top of that, extra freaking viciously. Nemo's paralysis
Yeah, it's a
demon
little
isn't
ugly.
the only deep sea creature to weaponize light.
just a
This
little ugly.
distinguished gentleman is known as a stoplight loose jaw, and his defining trait is that it uses a red light to hunt,
Oh.
which turns out to be a massive cheat code, since the longer the wavelength of a color, the less energy that wavelength has, and the faster it gets absorbed by water. And since the color red has the longest wavelength out of all of them, it's the first one to get absorbed. This is why
Yes.
red light can't reach the deep sea, and the animals living in the abyss that are red actually appear black, which makes it easier for them to hide from predatory smoke. But
No,
with the stoplight
yeah. I was waiting for him to bring this up because color is such a like interesting topic about the deep sea too. So like any fish, that's why there's like a lot of really red fish or like a lot of red aspects of fish down in the deep sea. And also why a lot of them are translucent, so that way they blend in with like the deep dark waters. But like red practically makes you invisible when you're that deep dark down. Deep dark down when you're that deep down. It's all black there, and red is also black. Exactly. It's so cool. Red is basically invisible mode down there.
using red as a searchlight, it's pretty much cracked at this version of hide and seek. Not to mention, since most of the life down there can't even see red, it's able to catch bodies while also not giving up its location to predators or
That's
the prey
so
it packs
smart.
up. This fish really
That's
evolved
so
a whole
cool.
wall hack and a real life invisibility cloak. Tell me
Yeah.
that ain't crazy. And that
That's like
freakish
turning on
overbite
X-ray
ensures that
vision in
once prey is
Minecraft.
found, it's lost forever. But why hunt prey when you could just sit and wait for it to come to you? That's the entire playbook for the deep sea lizardfish. Just look at that smile. You know he's on nefarious timing. And at over 2 feet long, they earned the title of being one of the premier apex
I don't know if I
predators
like
of
this
the
one.
deep sea. As a habitual camper, they lie waiting for life to pass them by before
Look
they
at
lunge
those
and use
teeth.
hypodermic needles for teeth to cancel it. And with apex standing for
Whoa.
anyone providing smoke gets extinguished,
Does it have
lizardfish don't
eyes?
hesitate to turn their own kind into coffin fodder. And with the whole point of those
It looks
teeth
like it
being to
doesn't
hold
even have
struggling,
eyes. It
panicking
just has
prey in
eye,
place,
like,
they make sure they don't
sockets.
live long enough to learn from their mistake. But as much of a therapy bill
Oh
as
God,
Gecko
okay, no, it
Guppy's
definitely
mugshot
has
might
eyes.
be, it might
Never
not even
mind.
be the worst headshot in the ocean. Not as long as this is still a factor. I don't know anyone who would waste the oxygen trying to defend this.
That-
I would. Many say this is a face only a mother could love. Well, then maybe
I
he
agree.
is my son. This is the deep sea telescope fish, one of the most stunning creatures of the deep tropical ocean.
I'm sorry for
Surfing at a
insulting
depth
your
of
son,
about
but he's really
1,600
ugly.
to 6,600 feet below the surface of the ocean. I can't say that normally. Surface of the ocean. And like you'll see if you look up photos of them online, they are often photographed at unfortunate angles that don't do them
no.
injustice. They orient themselves upwards, hanging out vertically in the water column, as they use their specially adapted
Interesting.
eyes to hunt for the
Oh,
silhouettes
okay, wait, I
of
have
their
seen a
prey.
little bit
There
about
are
these
two
guys.
species of telescope fish, Gigantisra indica and Gigantisra chuni. Don't be fooled by their genus name, which makes them sound like they're gigantic. That is not the case at all. Indica only gets to about 8 inches long, and chuni a measly 6. They are just
Aw, they're
little,
little
guys.
guys.
Gigantira actually translates to big tail, specifically. They are about half
guess
big.
average
If they happen
size.
to latch onto a snack that's a bit bigger than
Whatever.
their size, that's no problem at all. They underwent a series of skeletal reductions that allow for more room to just fold it in half. That's right. They are expert folders. In 1925, scientists found a 5.5-inch long viper fish inside the stomach of a 3-inch long telescope fish. They described
What?
it as neatly folded, an incredible quality possessed by the lovely telescope fish.
Yeah, I'm sure if we gave it blistex and a hairline restoration surgery, he'd be cute, but that's just me. That being said, there's a lot of pretty dope things just chilling in the deep. Take the barreled-eyed fish, the fish
Oh,
with a
I love
transparent
this
head that means
one.
it can spot ops or prey
This
directly
one's
above it. Thanks to those
crazy.
2 green gummy-looking orbs that are actually its
The-
eyes. Or
the other fish
ultra-rare
was like
giant
6
phantom
inches.
jellyfish equipped with 30-foot arms that makes this ET understudy the length of a whale shark. And when I say rare, I mean this jelly's only been seen like 100 times in the history of mankind, so the fact that you're watching this right now is kind of wild. Then you have the deep sea Dumbo octopus that copes with stress by turning itself into a ball to discourage predators from eating it.
I
And if
love
this right
the
here looks
Dumbo
familiar,
octopus.
yeah, right to his thighs. The vampire squid does the inverse, as they'll turn themselves inside
Dumbo
out and into their
octopus
own
are
personal
so
panic
cute.
room whenever
I
they're
think that
pressed
might
by
be
a
one of my
possible
favorite
predator.
deep sea creatures.
And how about a sea pig for you? Take everything I said about sea cucumbers and forget it for a second, because Honestly, they're just really
Yeah, it
cute
does
in a
look like
way
he's
I
made of
can't
silk.
fully explain. But it's not hard to see what makes this squid
Aw.
instant serotonin. Rosia pacifica, or the stubby
He's just a
squid,
little
is actually
guy.
more like
That's
a
the definition
cuttlefish.
of a little
It's
guy
also
right
a
there.
cuddly fish, and it's nature's apology letter for the sheer trauma it saturated the ocean with. It's
Yeah.
actually real, and those arts and crafts looking eyes help it catch prey on a nocturnal schedule. It's also important as an environmental indicator, since scientists will often study their responses to changes in water pH and use that to determine how polluted the water is around them, which you would think would earn this anime octopus the respect of the scientific community. Well, you'd be wrong. There's a video where some scientists found one, and let me just say, not even Hiroshima got roasted that hard. But that's gonna do it for this video. Make sure you go ahead and drink water.
Was it one of
hug your
those
moms,
Noah, like,
go subscribe to Lindsay's channel.
live
Link will be in the
streams?
description. Shout out to Lindsay for being in this video, and I'm gonna see y'all in the next one.
It's like Dave looks fake. Like Davy Jones.
Oh no!
Painted him on.
Yeah.
So fake.
Some other aerobic team just came before and just left it here.
It's like some little kid dropped their toy.
No!
Trash.
He does look like a toy.
He is awesome.
That's a good focus right
He,
there.
look,
Great
he looks
focus.
like a squeaky toy that like my dog would chew on.
It's a.
Do something.
Do something! Oh my god, that was so funny. Do something. That was great. Hi! Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please don't forget to give a like to the video and subscribe to my channel. I also stream live on Twitch, so follow me on Twitch and turn on notifications to know when I go live. I hope to see you there. Bye!